I'm ecstatic to have
Happy
you.
birthday.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
How's your day been so far?
It's been lovely actually. Josh took today and tomorrow off,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah, especially because he never takes time off of work, not even on regular holidays. He's so busy at the hospital.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it was really lovely that he just kind of surprised me with a couple days off. He got up and took Weston to the bus this morning.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Huge deal. And then
She's just been relaxing.
oh my gosh. Well, and then I was like, I really want to get out on the bike this morning because it was supposed to be raining,
Yeah.
but it was gorgeous. And so we did 9 miles by the lake
Oh my
this morning.
gosh.
Oh my gosh, it was gorgeous. And
Well, that's amazing.
and then followed it up with a yoga outside on the patio. And now I'm here talking to you.
I love it. That sounds like such an awesome day.
It has been fantastic so far. So yeah, I'm feeling super
Amazing.
spoiled.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm so excited to have you on to catch up with you. It's been so long since we've chit chatted, and
I know.
gosh, girl, where does the time go, right?
Honestly, it's incredible. I just saw Vicky the other day for the first time in years also. And it's just been just kind of weird. I almost feel like I'm diving back into my connections.
I've been feeling that way lately too.
It's interesting.
It is. And I will say that I think one of the things that I really appreciate about all of it is that I haven't seen most everybody or talked to most everybody in years,
Right.
but it almost feels like, hey, girlfriend,
Right. Absolutely. It's the most amazing thing. Like, nothing has even happened. And I am somebody who has like major, major anxiety. And so when Vicky had messaged me and she was like, hey, you want to come out tonight? And I usually kind of put her off, and I'll try to kind of flake out of things. And I've been really, really working on not doing that to myself.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yes. So I was able to kind of force myself out of that. But it was good. It was really fun to see her.
I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think that, especially when it's been like a few years since we've caught up, it's like we're the same people, but also so much has changed us.
Oh. Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing. Something I didn't even touch on today, as far as just like knowing you and having met you. And I feel like there's certain people that you sort of connect when you connect with like a passion or a purpose. You connect at such a deeper level with somebody, and so it's almost like that connection keeps you together over time.
Right. Totally.
But no matter what else is happening, or what else goes on, or how many years go different, like that that's somebody like at their core you like.
Yep. I totally get that. I know. I was so excited when you said yes to being on this show.
I was like, well, if my emotions are telling me no because I'm scared to do it, then I have to say yes. So that was that's sort of what I've been doing in life lately, is just if everything's telling me out of fear that I don't want to do it, then I automatically have to at that point. So it probably works out best.
Oh my gosh, I can relate. And you're not the first one to say that to me. Like,
really?
Yeah, no, there's been a few other girls that I've reached out to that I've been like, hey, would you consider? And they're like, I'm so terrified. So yes.
Right, exactly. Like, now that I know I'm scared, I have to do it.
Totally.
Such a funny thing.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm super excited to have you on, and I am just going to go ahead and share my amazing friend Aschley with the world today. You have been through such an amazing journey, and I cannot wait for people to hear your story and Like, I just am just amazed at watching on the sidelines of what you have been able to achieve in these last few years and just really build for yourself and for your family and even through really difficult times. And
Yeah.
so world and everyone else who's on Radiant Life Conversations with us, this is my amazing friend Aschley, whom I met through Beachbody years ago, and I am so blessed to still have her in my life. So Aschley, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you so much for asking me to come on and speak to you guys today and be part of this. I just think what you're doing is so cool too. And happy birthday. It's such a great day to be on here with you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, we met many years ago. I think I started coaching when my twins were 18 months old, and they're now 7. And through that time, I was married and then separated and then reconciled, and now my divorce is final in a couple weeks. In the middle of that, I was a stay-at-home mom, and then I returned to work, and then I got promotions and lots of moving over the years, and now being a very first-time home buyer and being able to purchase a house on my own in the middle of this divorce for me and my kids. Just a lot of stuff has transpired over the past few years, but it's been an amazing time, and I think that a lot of doors have been opened to me, and a lot of connections and friendships have been made just through kind of walking through those various doors as they open up. And I think that's such a huge part of why I am where I am, is by taking those opportunities as they come.
Yeah, it's so true. If we don't stop and take those opportunities and take the time that we need to review whether or not those are a good fit for us.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if we hesitate for too long,
right,
there's that loss that you lose out on the growth that comes with it.
Absolutely. Well, and it was interesting because even just in little areas of my life, sometimes I make major decisions based on very little information. Sometimes I overthink the tiniest decisions, and I think we've probably all been there where you just can't figure out what to eat. These are very insignificant things that we sort of battle.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, I was talking to my sister the other day as there was this guy who was asking me out on a date, and I was like kind of hemming and hawing over it. And I wanted, there were all these pros and cons and trying to figure out if I wanted to go or I didn't want to go, if I was wasting his time, if I was wasting my time. And my sister said, well, what does your gut tell you? And I said, well, my gut always says the same thing. And she said, well, what's that? And I go, just try it. And she had to laugh because instinctively, that's what I think my gut says to me most of the time, is just try it. Just go for it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you have to listen to the other parts of you, like your emotions and stuff that maybe just aren't in it. And so in that case, I ended up declining. But that was kind of the same thing that happened when my house came on the market. And I didn't even see the house until the day that offers were being reviewed. And I saw it at noon. Offers were being reviewed at 5:30. And by, I came out here, I walked through the house, I barely glanced at it. And by 2:30, I said, yeah, let's put it in an offer. And, it was for $60,000 over asking. And it was just like, you'd think I was buying a pack of gum at the store grocery line. It was just such an impulse buy where it was just like, yeah, I want the house. So it's really funny how sometimes your gut will just force you to do things when normally you would hem and haw more over whether or not it's a good idea or a good investment, but sometimes your gut just drives you and it just tells you what to do. You just got to do it.
Right. Totally. I love that. You saw the house at noon and the offers were being reviewed at 5:30 the same day, and you got the house.
Yeah. I wrote a love letter, and I was terrified. The realtor called me that night, called me at 7:30, and he was like, hey, how's it going? And I was like, fine. And he's like, what? And I go, well, you're calling me and that makes me very nervous. He's like, why? Like, what are you nervous about? I go, I'm really scared you're going to tell me I got the house. And he goes, congratulations, they accepted your offer. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, I could not believe that I went from like, apartment ridden and just, I don't know, just a very, very mixture of emotions of kind of where I was and where I thought I was heading, or where I kind of thought I was maybe stuck, to suddenly all of that just changed. Like the second of a phone call over the course of, between I guess noon and 7:30 over 6.5 hour period of time. I mean, it might sound kind of crazy, but I kind of feel like my whole life changed in those 6.5 hours where, I was moving cities, I was changing school districts, everything was just being completely undone and redone in such an amazing way. Yeah. So just because I kind of went with that gut and that high risk, high reward kind of mindset, which I think usually serves me pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. And I totally get that. I get that, how that feeling of like life changing, all of life changing happening in such a short period of time. It's like there are certain pivotal moments in our lives that if we look back, we can say that completely altered the path of my life or the trajectory of my life. And I can see exactly how and why and where.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think especially right now, it's been such a interesting time. Of course they make you wait like the 90 days to finalize your divorce and those types of things. And so I'm still, sitting in the middle of that. Yeah. Which is, I mean, truly a positive experience for me. I think that even when we made the decision to get divorced, and it was sad and it was hard to think about, I mean, when we're little girls and we're thinking about, I mean, most of us, I shouldn't say all of us, but you're thinking about your wedding and your white picket fence and the life that you're going to have and your children and all these kinds of grandiose ideas. And when you're going through and you're actually finally doing the divorce part of it and realizing that a lot of those things now are not going to come to fruition. Like, I'm not going to have a house with my spouse where, at least not this spouse, right? Right, yeah. Where, we have our children and it's all like this little, happy upbringing. And so there's a sense of loss that comes from that. But even in the middle of that, I was praying and I was just like, thank you, God, so much for bringing, him into my life, for giving us the years that we had, and truly just for giving me my children, and then for helping me grow through that experience and move on to whatever you have next for me, and I think having an attitude of gratitude, even in the middle of loss and in sadness, is, at least for me, such a huge part in how I get through anything. I mean, I go through so many different life-changing events. We just are, the place that I work just got purchased by a very large corporation. And so we're transitioning from being kind of a family-owned entity to this larger thing. And it's all very new and very overwhelming. And even, in the midst of that and a lot of concern and worry, just, constantly trying to look on that kind of bright side, I guess, that silver lining that, thank you, I still have a job. Thank you that, maybe there's better benefits, maybe there's better promotion, opportunities, maybe whatever. Just always looking at where things are going to get better from here and not just freaking out at what is currently happening.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I will say that one of the things, especially when I work with clients who are in a place of grief, helping them with developing a gratitude practice that allows them to still see. And that's the thing, I think, one of the things that's important to me to teach people is that a gratitude practice isn't a positive Polly attitude. It really is a place of, even in the midst of my pain and my trials and my difficulty and maybe some even severe trauma that I'm coming out of, I can find something that the sun is shining on. I can find something to encourage me to put one foot in front of the other.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's so true. There's so many cliches out there, but they're cliches for a reason.
Yep.
When one door closes, another door opens, those types of things. And watching another friend of mine or a friend of yours that was recently widowed over the past year, kind of watching her life change into new relationships and finding true joy again. I mean, I think that part of that is, I think she has that mentality of, being able to just be thankful for what was, and then also be thankful for what's coming.
Yeah. She's found a
And
place to
even,
celebrate.
yeah. I mean, I think you can appreciate what was and what is and what's coming simultaneously.
But that's the truth of the
Kind of through
life
that
that,
process.
yeah, and that's the truth of who we are as humans. We are not one thing at one time. We are multiple
Right.
things at one time. And we don't just live in a duality of the versions of ourselves. All of those versions are melded. And
Mm-hmm.
and if we try to put one of them on the shelf, we feel inauthentic.
Absolutely. I think that's especially true of women. Like, even if you think about, I have a tendency to think women are really, really great. So you might hear that come through in my
You're in the
thoughts where
right crowd.
I'm like, men, they're cool, but women are just exceptional.
They are.
But I think that that's so true. Like, even if you think about how they say, I know there's a lot of controversy, I guess, around whether or not multitasking is a good thing or not.
Right.
But you will hear more men than not say that they cannot multitask, whereas most women will say that we absolutely can. And I even think that's true in our personalities and in the layers to us, where we are, literally happy, sad, ecstatic, mourning, all simultaneously. Like, we're able to, I think, feel a lot of different things simultaneously in the same way that we can do multiple things simultaneously. I think it just adds a complexity to us, where if you're trying to be all of one thing, you're trying to be 100% happy. I just don't think I don't think that's really a possible thing to attain. I think we have so many things going on in our lives that there have to be parts of you that are kind of like, oh, like that kind of sucked today. And you can look at the totality of your day or the totality of your life and say, yes, the majority of that was absolutely happy. But if you have this level of expectation that your entire day is going to be at this overjoyed, happy level all day long, I think that is unattainable, because we are multitasking those emotions all day.
Yeah. And, the truth is that happiness might be a choice, but joy is a way to live. And
Sure, yeah.
yep. And joy is something that you can, it intertwines with gratitude, because you can find the joy in the difficulty. You can find the gratitude in the difficulty. One of the things that we've always done in our house, when it comes to teaching our kids how to handle the challenges and the positives of the day and managing expectations around their emotions, is what we call highs and lows. And we, more often than not, have had not just our biological kids and our bonus kids, but extra kids around the dinner table. And when I was coaching cheer, I actually did this with my cheerleaders at the end of every practice. You start with your low for the day so that we can end on a high note. So everybody goes around the circle, around the table, and they say what the lowest part of their day was, and then they have to say what the highest part of their day was.
I love that. Yeah, my best friend actually does something very similarly. She does what they call like the rose and the thorn.
Well, I like that. That's good.
Yeah, and so you say your rose is the best part of the day and your thorn was the worst part of the day, but you share that. And I think that combined, I think what's interesting about when we think about like the lows or the thorns or whatever is that what is a thorn one day might in a few years and a few days and a few weeks be something that we look back on that created that rose for that day.
Absolutely.
So like getting out of a relationship, it might be really painful, but then in a few years later, when you're in a better relationship, all of a sudden it's like, oh, like that thorn, it made me a better partner. It taught me what I really wanted out of life. And now I'm with this person who's able to provide all that for me in a way that never would have existed had that thorn or that low not happened.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And I think that when you teach when you allow yourself to say, this was the low part of my day. Like, this was a challenge. This is why it was a challenge. And this is what I want to do about it. So that's one of the things that we also do with our family unit is, okay, so why did that feel like such a challenge to you? And so now what do you want to do about it? Is there something you can do about it, or you just want to express it and share it? But then turn around and say, okay, this was a rough part of my day, but I'm going to find the high. And sometimes finding the high is really hard. Finding the positive is really difficult. But when you condition yourself and your family around you to say, we can share the difficult things and we can sit in the grief and the anger and the frustration of life, but we're always going to try to lift each other up. We're always going to try to encourage and love and support. And one of the things that, one of the first things that I end up teaching a lot of my clients and helping a lot of my clients through is the pity party in the pool. And so basically the concept of the pity party in the pool is not just you're throwing a pity party and you're inviting everybody, but you're masking it as this amazing, luxurious time together where everybody's now drowning in the pool with you.
Right. Yeah, I think I love that you do it with your family, because I think I'm a very solutions-oriented person, and I get very bogged down. It's something I try to work on because I have a hard time with it, but I get very bogged down when people come to me with complaints where they're either not actively looking for solutions, they have no interest in hearing solutions. And I think that openness is so important, because if you close yourself off to being able to ask yourself, how could I have better managed that? Or if something bad does happen, that is a thorn for the day. What is the solution to that? Is there something you can grow from that experience? Is there something that you could do differently so that hadn't happened, or so you could communicate with somebody who hurt you in a different manner? Looking at those solutions, I think, is the most beneficial part of having that conversation.
Absolutely. One of the things that I will share with everybody is the way that we handle solutions and the way that I teach my clients to handle solutions. So you have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes to bitch, to complain, to say all the shitty things that you need to say. And I'm setting the timer. When the timer goes off, then you have to decide if you're ready to work on the solution. Because the thing is that not everybody's ready at the same time. So then if somebody says to me, okay, I'm not ready for a solution yet. Okay, that's fine. But you can't talk to me.
Continue on this negative path.
Yeah, you can't talk to me about this topic again until you're ready to seek a solution with me.
I love that. I want to do that with my team at work.
Yes.
I really love that. It's so true, because if you don't kind of cut yourself off, people can do that for literally eternity if people let them, and I think that's also where kind of setting personal boundaries comes in. It sounds like that's basically what you're establishing for yourself and for the other members of your family, is a personal boundary around, like, you can express your feelings, but there has to be a certain point where it doesn't become a situation where you're dragging the rest of us down with you, or using us as your punching bag.
And then pulling us into a situation that slanders or is gossiping about someone else.
Well, yeah, because negativity always fuels more negativity. And so once one person kind of starts going, it's so easy for other people to kind of jump on the bandwagon and be like, oh yeah, well, this happened to me today too, and that was really crappy. And then all of a sudden, everybody is just on this tangent about all the bad things that happened. And there's, that could just create a really toxic environment for people.
Well, and think about it. If everybody judged me off of the worst moment of my life for the rest of my life, I would never have the space to grow into my full potential.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think about that for my children. I don't want that for my children, and I don't want them to do that to somebody else. And I certainly don't want that for anybody else in the world. And so I feel like it's crucial to teach my clients and the people in my life how those boundaries can look in a solutions-oriented way without diminishing or demeaning the challenges of life.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because every single challenge is so important. You can't grow. You just can't change the way you see things, or the way you feel about things. I have changed dramatically over the past 20 years, and what I think and feel about different topics or situations. And that just comes through experience and through watching people that I care about go through experiences. And it's part of life, and it's so valuable. And I think that is also part of where that attitude of gratitude comes in, because even when it's a crappy experience, you have to understand that it is, it's benefiting you in some way. So you almost have to just be grateful for them all the time.
Right.
Like there has to be a benefit in it, and that's just. I mean, I don't want to be like a crazy positivity or toxic positivity person, rather, but there is. I don't know. I just think it's so important to at least try to ask yourself: is there anything possible that's positive that I could take from this?
Absolutely. And what lesson have I learned? What can I value in the challenges? I mean, we all have something that we've done or we've said that we really feel justified in hanging on to. And we can feel justified hanging on to it for the rest of our lives. Like, we can justify the shit out of anything. Every human's got it.
Oh yeah.
But where's that going to get us? Is that going to keep us in a place of joy and living our life to the fullest and enjoying our lives and the people in it? Or is that going to keep us in an isolated, separated, divided space?
Yeah. And I'm a very strong believer in manifesting. I think that, and that's why I think it is so important that you kind of cut yourself off when you're in that negative headspace, because you will accidentally create more of that for yourself. And I mean, I talk about it all the time. I wanted twins since I was a very little girl. I was going to have, granted, I was going to have identical twin girls. And that's not exactly how that played out. But my real focus is I just love the idea of twins. I love the idea of having twins. The more babies, the better kind of mentality. And sure enough, I ended up having twins, and I truly say that they are the manifestation of my dreams and of everything I wanted to create. And I even see that now. I mean, I had this vision of myself when I was, ever since I was probably around maybe 17, 18, I kind of would see myself in this vision of me around the age that I am now, and what it looked like, what I kind of looked like, what everything looked like. And it was, all I could really see was the back of me standing in front of a sink in a all white kitchen, and I was in yoga apparel, which at the time I didn't even do yoga, so it's kind of funny that I had sort of this vision of myself. But just kind of how I saw myself, how I saw my fitness level, how I saw what I was doing, what the things I was eating in my kitchen, just in this vision that I had. And a 20-year-old kind of vision that I just sort of always had in my head. And it's really interesting to me now when I see, even the kitchen in the home that I just bought, and those types of things, and kind of the direction that my life is heading now. And I'm like, wow, I feel like it's happening again. I feel like I'm continuing to manifest these things. And even when I go back and I think about, my soon-to-be ex-husband is a interesting man. You've met him.
Yes.
He is a very big personality, but he's very kind, and I love him very much. I think he's great. But when I think about back before I met him, the things I used to say were things like, I will never date somebody in the military. I will never date a Republican. I will never date somebody from the South. I had these things that were my nevers, right?
Yep.
But I think by focusing on those nevers, I very much manifested him right to me, and there he was, and so we got married. So, needless to say, divorce is kind of necessary, but he's still, he's still a good dude. He's still great. I wouldn't have my kids without him. But I'm such a strong believer in making sure that you're very conscious in what you're thinking and what your thoughts are, because I really believe that you will inadvertently manifest things to yourself if you're not careful. And so by focusing on whatever you're upset about, you're just going to create more of it for yourself. And so I think that when the question was, what does living a radiant life kind of mean, as we're doing these radiant life conversations and thinking about that level, I mean, I really believe that radiating really is kind of another word of manifesting. Like we're putting out into the world what we want to get back. And so positive or negative, whatever you're putting out is what you get back. And it's, for me, like I kind of use the example of like, if you go to like the grocery store, or if you're at work or whatever, and even if you started off your day well, if somebody's rude to you, you immediately are confronted with whatever they're radiating off onto you. And you have the choice to absorb that radiation and reflect it, turn it, and then return however you're being treated. Or you have the choice to kind of deflect it and to continue to radiate what you want to radiate, what you're choosing to radiate. And I think that is basically the same idea behind manifesting, where you have to try to train yourself to stay like in a more positive state so that you're not accidentally creating the life that you do not want.
Yeah, totally. And I, like you, have seen so much manifestation come to fruition in my life, both positive and negative. I manifested my husband like nobody's business. Let me just tell you, like, I remember as a little girl seeing the relationship between my grandparents, and they were really the only example that I had of this just beautiful love story and the transparency and honesty of them understanding who each other was. Like, my grandpa was a pain in the ass like nobody's business. And my grandmother, but he loved in a big way. He was so affectionate, and he was just like, he loved in such a big way. There was no doubt in anyone's mind that he loved you. And it was so cool because he was a long haul truck driver. So he would come home, on the Friday night, and she'd be in the kitchen at the stove cooking. And he was, 6'2", and she's like 5'2".
Oh my gosh.
And so he would come up behind her, and his greeting would be wrapping his arms around her and grabbing her boobs and kissing her on the cheek and just be like, I love you. And, and I just remember thinking, now that's love. Like, that's love. Like, and I want somebody who is like that. I want somebody who will get on the floor and play with the kids and put me first and be passionate. I used to dream about the kind of husband that I would have someday. And that was really, being a wife and a mom was really my goal in life. And because of where I come from, because of my story. And I just really wanted to do that well. That was really important to me. And so and I remember I'd been dating this guy, and I was just like, you know what? He treats me like shit. And so in the same night as that, I left the guy I was dating, and I quit my job. I'd never walked out on a job a day in my life. That's unheard of for me. And I walked out, and I got in the car, and I was like, you know what, God? I'm fed up. I am so fed up. So you're going to have to give me everything that I'm asking for, because I'm done looking. Like, I'm done. And so, of course, I had people to feed and take care of. And so I had to get a job. So I went and I applied at the place a girlfriend of mine was working at the next day, and they weren't hiring, of course. And I turned in my resume anyway. And as I was walking out the door, somebody came from the back office and said, hey, do you have time for an interview? And I was like, well, sure, and they hired me on the spot, and I started a couple nights later. And then a couple nights after that, I met Joshua, and I knew from day one that he was supposed to be my husband. 2 months later, we were engaged. 6 months later, we were married.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're right. What you focus on is what you bring into your life. So there are times when I can look at my life and say, wow, the reason things went downhill is because I was focused on fear and lack, and not where I was going and all the good stuff in my life. And so, the God, the universe, spirits, angels, they don't know the difference between, like, when you put a statement or a thought out there, there's no judgment on it. We human beings are the ones who put judgment on it. So
absolutely.
When you put that thought out there, the universe says, well, that's what she's asking for, so let's give it to her.
Right. Yeah. They're like, all I heard was Army, South, and Republican. So here you go.
Truth, sister.
It is so true. Well, and I think but it's such a beautiful and amazing thing, though, to know that we have so much ownership over our lives.
Yeah.
If you look at your life, I mean, like you're saying, like you can really look around and be like, this is what I've created. I've created this through my thoughts. I've created this through my actions. I've created this through my beliefs.
Yep.
And so I think that the most amazing thing is if you would look around and you don't like what you see, that you're in control of that. You know, there are plenty of areas where I'm fully aware that like I'm completely in control and I'm choosing not to do something about that. You know, like I mean, I look at like my fitness and I'm like, okay, like fitness is probably one of those only things that maybe you can't entirely manifest exclusively. Like you have to put a little bit more action behind it. But you can certainly manifest your desire or the ability to do certain things. But I think those are where you can look at yourself and say, okay, like if this is something I really want, then I need to start putting my beliefs into that. I need to start putting my thoughts and my actions into that and really honing in on the area that maybe you're not happy with. We truly do have so much more control than we think we do. And I absolutely don't mean to say that as though God is not in my life, as though God is not playing an absolute giant crucial part in that, because that's who I'm talking to as I'm manifesting these things. But but he also gave us autonomy and ability to do these things on our own in a lot of ways. And so yeah, and so I think that it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing the ownership we have in this world to be able to create what we want for ourselves. And I just don't think enough people take advantage of that. And it's just amazing. I will tell you, for anybody who hasn't manifested something or doesn't feel like they're manifesting things in their life, when you really put that focus in, it is truly the most beautiful thing to look around and be like, I created this.
Damn straight, girl. Damn straight. Yeah. Yes.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. The interesting thing is, I think back, first of all, if you're a spectator in your own life, you're doing life wrong.
Absolutely.
You have to I'm reading this book right now and I'm loving this book. And I will say it, the first time, so I have it on Audible, and the first time I listened to the book, I was like, oh, this is such good stuff. I should pause and I should take notes and I should do the exercises, but I didn't. So now I'm listening to it again. And this time I'm taking notes. But it is called Believe, Ask, and Act. And it is just a beautiful book about how we co-create our world with God and the universe, and how we do that. Basically it's about manifestation, but it's also about, you have these spirit guides and you have these guardian angels and you have God and you have the universe. So you're not a bystander, because God gave you free will. But also there are certain aspects that are predetermined, but you still have free will.
Sure.
And it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful book. So yeah.
I'll have to write that one down. Yeah, I'm kind of experiencing the same thing right now with listening to Spirit Junkie and listening to it on Audible. And of course, there's the exercises and things. I'm like, oh, like I can't do these in my car. I can't close my eyes in my car. So, wanted to kind of go back and read that physical copy in my own home. But yeah, I love that term co-creating. I think that is perfectly termed.
We are constantly co-creating. And if we don't take ownership of that co-creation, we are going to be spectators in our own lives. And then we're going to feel like life has been done to us, and we're going to have regrets, and we're going to feel like we've missed out. And then we're not going to feel, I love that you attributed radiating and living a radiant life to true manifestation, because that really is the truth. Like, you get to decide how you show up in the world. And do you want to be the person who is the lit candle that lights other candles? Or do you want to be the candle that gets blown out by other people's wind?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think we have so much more control over that than we think we do. When I was younger, I don't think I did a very good job of kind of shutting down relationships or shutting down people that were maybe radiating onto me, toxic energy or negative thoughts and things. I think I'm at this point in my life a little bit better at kind of going, oh, like I don't like this isn't somebody I really want to spend time with, or this isn't, really a conversation I want to have. Um, and I'm still very diplomatic, but I can recognize it now and kind of shut it down a lot better than I could in my younger years. And I think that only makes things better. I mean, me in my 20s, I mean, as much as I wanted to be like a positive person and I wanted to have this positive outlook and all those things, I was surrounded by a lot of negative stuff because I didn't really realize that I was in control the way that I am.
Right.
And so then you can get thrown into like a victim mentality where you feel like, yeah, things are just happening to you. This sucks. I didn't get this job, or why did they want to hire me? And so you don't really realize that you're absorbing so much of the negative energies that you're around. And so you're inadvertently giving off a lot more negative than you want to. Even if you think you're a positive person, your energy is being compromised.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what was the most important thing that you had to learn in order to be able to get to a place now where you are shutting things down more regularly that aren't serving you?
That's such a good question. I mean, I think just understanding that I have a choice in the matter. I think some relationships were taken away from me, and were removed from my life, and it was a painful experience. And I thought that was, I didn't understand why those things were being taken from me. And I think ultimately, I think God was trying to open up other new doors for me. So I think I don't know, it's such a great question. Just the ability to know that I have control. So I don't know exactly how that came about or how that lesson was learned, but knowing that what I choose to put off, no matter what is put onto me, I always have a choice in what I put out there. And what I choose to absorb or surround myself is a choice. And if I don't want to be around that, or if I know that it's not good for me, then I have to remove myself. Even somebody I was recently dating, I was kind of like I like this person. I know that this person is a good person, but I know this person is not for me.
Right.
And I still have this very strong desire to be around him, but I was kind of secretly like praying to God, like, can you please just take him away? Like, can you, like, I want to be around him all the time, but I don't want to be around him. So I need you to take him away. And, and so luckily, he was taken away from me on a romantic level and not as a friend, but I literally was asking for that because I just was becoming much more conscious of the fact that I want to surround myself with people that I know are going to be positive influences for my life.
Yep.
And then I think that you can have different levels of relationships, right? So like somebody that you have a romantic involvement is going to have more influence over your life than somebody who's just maybe a friend on the side, right?
Absolutely.
So so I can handle the friend on the side thing, but having a romantic relationship with that person just wasn't going to be good for me. So I think just recognizing it and being able to just even ask for that help if you can't do it yourself. Just, can you take this person out of my desire? Can you take this person out of my life? But that we ultimately kind of have that control to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. And I think that oftentimes that's the reality. People don't understand. They don't see how they have control because fear of judgment or opinions or whatever, fear is what stops them from speaking up and saying this isn't working. And that requires bravery, vulnerability, and courage.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something I really, really struggled with too. I am such a I'm such an anxiety-ridden person, and I literally slathered myself in CBD before this call, just to try to like calm down. Yeah, so I have super bad anxiety, and I'm always just going like a mile a minute in my head. Um, and so just when you let fear get the best of you, like that's what I was saying before, and just having to confront that when you feel that fear and just understanding it's not real. And that's one of the things that I think was in Spirit Junkie that I was listening to that I thought was really kind of profound. So it's Gabrielle Bernstein, and I definitely recommend it. And I'm only in the very beginnings of it, but
I recommend it too. It's a fantastic book.
It is. It's so good. But just, gosh, I just lost my train of thought.
Fear.
Oh my God.
Are you gonna mention how she sees fear?
I was gonna try.
Her acronym for fear, which I really love, and I've heard this for many years before I read Spirit Junkie, but it's false evidence appearing real.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and just trying to be able to decipher, what is real, and what is not real. Is this? I think that's one of the things that you have to really get inside your body a little bit in a lot of this stuff when it comes to, people can throw terms around like your gut reaction. What is your heart telling you? Is this a fear decision? And for people like me, I think, and for a lot of us, I think that maybe have anxiety particularly, sometimes those feelings all feel the same.
Yep, without a doubt.
And yeah, it's very, very, very hard to decipher. Is this fear? Is this like a legitimate like concern? Is this butterflies? Am I happy? Am I excited? Am I in love? Is this something that's great? Like they all kind of feel the same. And so I think that that's where like meditation practice and stuff like that kind of comes into play too.
Do you have a practice like in the moment when you're in a social set, not like when you're back home meditating or whatever? Do you have a practice or something that you do in that moment to tune into yourself that helps you decipher what's going on?
I don't know that I would necessarily say I have a practice. I think that so I graduated from the University of Washington with a degree in psychology, right. And I have a very strong interest in like the mind and how things work. And so I think because of that kind of naturally curious, nature around like the mind and stuff, I'm somebody who very much kind of stops myself in the midst of things and I just talk to myself and, just asking myself, okay, what is the root of this? Where are you feeling it? How, is this truly fear? If it's, is there something that could potentially, is there something bad that could potentially happen to you? Because, it is very, very, very rare that when I feel anxiety, it is because I am in the midst of being murdered. Like, right. That is going to be a very, very rare occurrence, right?
Yes.
Like, 99 out of 10 times, like, that is not the case. So I think that generally can kind of talk me down a little bit where I'm like, okay, there's not actually something that's going to harm me. Could my ego get bruised a little bit? Yes. Is that a life or death situation? No. And that's kind of the same thing here where it's kind of like even coming down to the call.
Yeah.
Is this something that is going to be, might I say something that I don't really want to say, but I overshare? Might I, do this? Okay, even if I did that, is that going to be the end of my life as I know it? No. So it just kind of pulls me back into a calmer space where I can move forward.
Yes.
So I think it's more just about talking myself through it a little bit. And I always say peeling your own onion, right? So,
yes.
Right?
Yes. It's so funny.
Peeling those layers and seeing, okay, what is the root of this? And is it something I can manage or do I need to take my butt home?
Yeah, totally. So. And that's something that I will say that I use, man, girl, like every time we connect, I'm just like, we have so much in common.
We have so much in common.
But yeah, that's an analogy that I use and have used in my life for most of my adult life is that onion.
Same.
And that how we are layered and those layers are absolutely connected and intertwined and they have those thin little layers between them as well. And it's so important for us to sort of narrow our focus to say, what is this really? And one of the things that I teach my clients who manage anxiety is want your right hand over your heart, your left hand over your abdomen between your rib cage and your belly button, so your solar plexus, and 3 deep breaths for the count of 4 in, hold 4 at the top, 4 out. After you've done those 3 deep breaths, what am I really experiencing?
Yeah.
When you touch yourself, when you touch your body, you connect with your physical, but you're also connecting with your heart and your gut. And you're saying, and you're going inward with your breath. And you're saying, okay, what's really going on here? What do I really need right now? What's the most crucial thing in my life? What am I really feeling? What am I really experiencing? And when you go inward, instead of focused outward on whoever or whatever is happening around you, then you can actually find the answers. Oftentimes, people don't even know where to start to look to find the answers.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I definitely, I've tried some of those breathing techniques. I think they're really great. I do think there is, I think it also helps calm your mind down a little bit when you focus on the physical.
Yeah.
So if you're having like racing thoughts and you stop and you do, you center on your heart and on your belly, and you just feel yourself breathing, it kind of, since that's what you're focused on, it takes your focus off of whatever is causing you that anxiety and helps calm you down a little bit to where you can get a little bit deeper in the logical.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it takes you out of that flight or fight response.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I always have to say, I love the onion analogy so much, and one of the reasons is because I always say, you have to peel you have to peel out those layers, and you might have to cry through the process.
Yes.
But
yes.
it's to get to what's really going on.
Yes.
So the onion is such a good analogy.
Well, and the other beautiful thing about the onion analogy is that the first time you attack the onion, the outer layer is so big and requires energy and work to get off. Like you have
totally.
to, you're sitting there and you're just like, is this ever going to end? Like,
right.
God. And then you're like, okay, I did that. Whew. Okay. But then it circles back around and it shows back up in your life. But the next layer is smaller in circumference. And you're like, whoa, okay, I thought that I had dealt with this, but here we are again. And the next layer, you go, okay, wait, I've been here a couple times before. I know how to do this. It takes less time every time you visit a situation to say, I got this.
Yeah. Well, and also just recognizing too that like the things that shape you, like those ones at the core, it's important to know what's at the core of you. Yeah. Because that's really what has made you become where you're at. And even to this day, like I know that there are still things that I think I'm over and feelings that I think I've let go. And then all of a sudden it's like 3 years later, I see something and I'm like, oh my God, I miss that person, or I miss that memory.
Yes.
And, then you kind of realize, okay, it's still there. But it's also, I think time always helps you, but there's something that I don't think you'll ever get over, but you just have to know that they're there. I think ignoring them is where you get into like a dangerous spot.
Absolutely. Teaching people how to sit in their feelings without getting stuck there is such a crucial thing that, I recently had a client who showed up to a session in the depth of her crisis. And there could have been an entire session devoted to the depth of that crisis where the session could have ended and she could have still been in crisis mode. But in having the tools and the skills in order to help her recognize that she is in crisis, but she doesn't have to be in crisis mode, because those are two different places to be.
Oh, that's such a great point. Yeah, because if you're operating in crisis mode, that's really when you are in your fight and flight, and that's where you feel like that sense of panic and that sense of urgency that can become overwhelming
And detrimental.
hmm
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think, as women, because we're so multifaceted in the way that we multitask our careers and our families and our homes and our extended families and our friendships, our communities, we can easily stay in management mode. And by staying in management mode, we're sort of staying in crisis mode. We're just handling one crisis after another instead of getting into the root of dealing with what's really going on.
Oh yeah, and then you're just depleting yourself in every single area because you can't maintain that for long. And so if you're trying to, I mean, it's just not intended for that purpose. It's the difference between an ER and an actual medical facility. Like
Yep.
it's not where you want to be for for really caring for a situation. Like you threw it in that moment, but then you need to move through it and into like kind of the next phase
And
dealing.
yes, and without tuning into ourselves, without having a practice or an approach to our connection to our own souls, we cannot get out of that ER crisis mode. We cannot get out of that management mode. So, what sort of practice have you started to build for yourself, Ashley, that helps you live the fullest and most radiant life that you can have?
I think just trying to find the things that bring you the most joy and trying to find balance within them. I I'm definitely somebody who seeks to have it all, and I was very much kind of told from an early age of my life that I could have it all. My grandma got divorced from an alcoholic when she was, had three young daughters and continued to become a very successful executive at Boeing and really excel in her career. My mom graduated from the University of Washington when I was 7 years old. So she worked full time with three kids and was going to school. So I kind of just grew up with this belief that you you kind of get it done. I think that might be to the detriment, but I think it's also something that I think is important is figuring out, okay, if you do want all these things in life, or what things are important to you, and kind of just managing those and not worrying about the stuff that maybe isn't a priority, um, that maybe is you think is a priority but isn't
Yeah.
really like one for you.
Yeah.
Other people have different things. Like there are some people who want to be stay-at-home moms. I feel very blessed that I got to be a stay-at-home mom for several years. And again, that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't married somebody in the military. So it's just kind of funny how those things work out. But honestly, my practice is really just I'm a very structured person. So I would say time management and to-do list. I mean, it's not exactly the most homeopathic strategy, but it definitely suits me. But then also just giving yourself a break. When there are days where I'm like, I'm not doing anything today. I'm going to sit. I'm not going to do a damn thing. I'm not going to worry about whether or not I have life balance. I'm not going to worry about if my meals are balanced. I'm just going to chill.
Yeah.
But that helps. That actually helps in every other area because then it allows me to kind of refocus and get back into what I need to do.
Ultimately, over the course of your life, wouldn't you say that having those days actually brings that is part of the balance?
Absolutely, yeah. Just, I mean, it kind of goes back to that whole, trauma mode, and you can't live in that. And so I think as women, because we are just going, going, going all the time, and we're constantly, I'm overanalyzing everything, and I'm trying to do everything. I'm trying to clean everything and cook everything and make sure my home is presentable. And I always get a little nervous on those days that I just want to like lay in bed and chill. That am I getting depressed? Am I on borderline? I need to examine this. It's like we don't feel like we're allowed to do that, but I'm absolutely here to say you are allowed to do that. You're allowed to do whatever the fuck you want to do, and I think that. That's kind of my like life motto. Like, what makes you happy? What do you want to do? Who do you want to be? And allow that to change as you grow, and allow that to change every day. And if you want to lay in bed one day and the next day you want to be super productive, like just go with it. Go. I mean, that's really kind of your gut talking to you as far as what you need that day. And I just say, listen to it.
Yeah, and own it, right? Because that's the other piece
Yeah.
too. It's like, stop second guessing that you decided to stay under the covers or
Yeah.
drag your covers to the couch and Netflix binge all day. Like, don't second guess that that's what you need. Ask yourself, is this what I really need? Okay, if it is, then fucking do it and enjoy it and own it.
There were years where I would notice myself that I could not sit and actually relax on my couch.
Yes.
And even when I sat down, I was in a constricted posture. I was never fully just like relaxed. I never just like kicked up my feet and slouched my head down and just chilled out. There was always, it almost felt like I was sitting there on the verge of having to get up and run and do something really fast.
Yeah.
And that sort of state, I would always try to like make this conscious effort of like, okay, like I know that I'm supposed to be relaxing right now. Like that's literally what I'm trying to do. And I would have to actively talk to my body and try to talk myself through releasing some of the muscles, releasing some of the tension, slouching a little bit, leaning into it, like, because I just didn't feel like I was allowed to do that. And how shitty when we work so hard if we tell ourselves we're never allowed to relax.
Right. And I think that, because of where we're at in the generation of women, we are in that generation that's maybe was conditioned by previous generations that women, by having it all, meant that we were also doing it all the time.
Correct.
And so we, like, the amount of epic guilt that I used to feel, because my in-laws live right next door, the amount of epic guilt that I used to feel when they would just come over and I would be like, the kids were not home and Josh was not home. Right. And I was like, it's the middle of the day and I'm curled up with a cup of tea watching a movie. Like I would feel epic levels of guilt when they would see me that way.
Yeah. And it's so horrible because it just, we do so much. I mean, I think just people, just life was really hard. Things are very stressful. I have to pay the IRS a bunch of money today. Like there's always like constant like stressors and things going on. And you have to just listen to yourself and allow yourself to rest. And I think also kind of going back to where I said like the seeking balance and stuff and wanting it all. I think that you have to focus on what that truly means.
Yes.
Because having it all does not, like you're saying, does not necessarily mean doing it all.
Right.
And what are the things that are truly valuable to you? Like, is it okay if the dishes don't get done tonight? Is it okay, like, would you rather have the dishes not get done or would you rather not have a fulfilling career? Like, I know those are kind of like two drastically different things, but I think that you have to look at what is important to you, what's going to bring you joy.
But isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth for all women, though, that is that determination, that decision between this and that, between career or working on our work or our passion and working in our home, isn't that the constant battle for women?
Absolutely it is. And it's really interesting. I think especially in like our generation and I'm an old millennial, so I'm like, I think they call me like a grandma millennial, maybe is what I'm called.
Right.
So, something like that, like an elder. But there's a strong desire to match up your passion with your job and your career and your ability to make financial gains for your life. Yeah. And that's definitely something that's still within me. I mean, I appreciate my career, what it's doing for me, but my passion ultimately, lies in another direction that I intend to go. Yeah. And I intend to seek that back out. I mean, I think like we were talking about having strong connections to other people through passion and purpose. That's one of the reasons why you and I connect so well, I think, is that we have this very similar mindset around wanting to help other people and wanting to do something worthwhile in this life. And I think that that's also kind of a generational thing where we're seeing a lot of people have those similar mindsets and feelings around not just wanting to have a job, but wanting to have a purpose and a life.
Yes. And I think there's a group of us in this sort of age group that we're in that says, Listen, I knew that social injustice was a major issue when I was a kid, but I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't as confident speaking up and speaking out the way that I have become now. And now I feel
Correct.
a passion and a movement to master how I show up for the injustices of other people in this world.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I think that's even like what I mentioned before about kind of just growing up, right? Where
Yep.
what you feel comfortable saying in your 20s is different from what you feel comfortable saying in your 30s. How you show up for yourself and for other people is different when you're younger. And I think we're definitely seeing that push and that transition now. Where I think we're all just ready to be heard.
Yeah,
And
yes.
Yes. Right? And just I want you to hear me. I want to say what I want to say. I'm important. I'm valid. And that goes for everybody in our age range. And I think it's valid and it's true. And I see those people, and I just just want to, I don't know, I just want to change the world.
Yes, you and me both. And
know.
I have to say that I've been blessed enough to have multiple batches of children.
Yes.
And with each group of our kids, I have been able to see through them how I have grown as a
That's
human.
interesting.
It's really cool because kind of the mom that I was when the last group of kids were 10 and under, was still sort of figuring out how to repurpose my childhood trauma and how I wanted to use that to do good things in the world. And now I'm in a place with this child who is 8, Weston. And, the cool thing is that we had a really cool conversation yesterday. He and I went on a walk after dinner last night, and he had a hard time. We were talking about love and, equal opportunities in the world. And he's like, Mom, I just don't understand. If love is love, then I don't understand why people don't get that. And I said, I love your innocence, because the truth is he's 8 years old and he can say, it's okay that I don't live like you, but I can still love you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's what's crazy to me is that these things are not difficult concepts.
I know.
They're really not. Just accepting other people and I mean, how do you ask for acceptance as your own individual person without accepting another person? Like,
Right.
It's such hypocrisy to be that way, to think that however you are is exactly how you're supposed to be, and everybody else who's not exactly like you is somehow flawed.
Absolutely.
It's odd to me.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I think that as more of us hopefully are radiating that love and that acceptance out into the world, that continues to get reflected and radiated back and grows. And I think most of us have heard lots of talk about kind of the spiritual movement and spiritual awakenings and things like that are happening now. And I definitely can feel that and see that in my relationships with people, and how people that I've known for 10 years that maybe started out in a more judgmental space, or started off in different from how they are now, how they've grown to be a much more light-filled person.
Yeah.
And I hope to see that continuation.
Yeah.
As we kind of all continue to do our part by just loving one another.
And checking our own shit at the door.
For sure.
Because that's what
we all make mistakes, and we all say things. Nobody is perfect. And I think that's where we get in trouble. Where we get in trouble is when people start thinking I'm perfect, which therefore makes other people imperfect. And that's just not true for anybody. There's not a single person that is true for. Yeah.
Yep. Very true. Very true. Oh my gosh, I could sit here forever and talk with you. It's so good.
It's so fun. We have to do more of this is the problem. It's too infrequent.
It is too infrequent. It is way too infrequent. And I miss having these conversations with you and with all the other wonderful people that I have in my life. So that was the push to start Radiant Life Conversations, because I am blessed to have some of the most incredible, women in my life and making time to connect with them and talk about the things that are really important in the world and in the lives of women is I'm so passionate about. I'm so passionate about allowing for a space for women to be just themselves.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining me today, Aschley. It has been a huge joy for me to spend time with you today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I hope you have a wonderful birthday. And thank you for the invitation. I appreciate having an opportunity to come on here and chat with you and just reconnect. It's been amazing.
Oh, it's been fantastic. We will have to do this again very, very soon.
Absolutely.
You have a fantastic day, darling.
Thanks, babe. You too.
Thanks.